The life of Ruben, the protagonist of Darius Marder's directorial debut, Sound of Metal, is devoid of structure. He roams from town to town with his girlfriend, Lou, playing small heavy metal gigs to passionate fans as they both try to heal from traumatic pasts full of addiction and mental illness. But after Ruben loses his hearing, Marder takes us on an expertly structured journey of self-discovery through an exploration of a rarely depicted disability that leads to one of the most touching endings in recent years. Narrative structure is often derided by some sects of film fans who claim it restricts the creativity of writers and results in cookie-cutter scripts. And while there's no doubt that adhering strictly to a set of rules from the first stages of screenwriting will probably restrict your ideas, Sound of Metal provides a perfect example of how the guidelines of structural theories can enhance our experience of a unique character's journey. These guidelines don't inhibit the ideas of the writer, they provide a familiar backbone to new ideas, help us to understand the complexities of Ruben's inner life, and guide us emotionally to the resolution of his journey. There are many very similar variations of film structure theories from different filmmakers and screenwriting gurus, but for this video we're going to focus on Dan Harmon's story circle to dissect Sound of Metal. We'll show how this simple roadmap of plot points is used to cut to the core of the fatal flaw in Ruben's character, and how it demonstrates the interplay of his want and his need with such clarity that we can understand his final emotional breakthrough with just a few simple shots. Sound of Metal opens with Ruben in a zone of comfort. This is the equilibrium, the status quo. Thanks to an inciting incident, the equilibrium is broken. The character now wants something and needs to go on a journey. Ruben loses his hearing and wants to fix it so he can return to his zone of comfort with Lou. Through these first two steps, we get a sense of Ruben's fatal flaw. He is an addict who is running from his problems without really facing them, and his codependent relationship with Lou is built on them enabling this shallow escapism for each other. The opening also effectively gets us on Ruben's side, showing that he is talented, kind, and actively taking steps to improve his life, even if those steps are misguided. In their struggle to come to terms with what is happening to Ruben, the couple find an opportunity for him to stay at a shelter for death-recovering addicts run by a man named Joe.
Sorry, I don't know that. I'm Ruben. It's Lou.
Hi, I'm Lou.
I'm sorry, I read lips.
My name is Lou.
Lou, I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
After a brief refusal of the call to adventure, a staple of many screenwriting structure guides, Ruben agrees to stay at the shelter, thereby entering an unfamiliar situation. In step 4, he begrudgingly begins to adapt to his new environment, and we as the audience begin to see the path that Ruben will need to take if he is to reach the emotional fulfillment that we want for him. He learns American Sign Language, starts taking an active role in the community, and connects with the other residents, even visiting and making friends with the deaf children in the school. Joe has him start sitting quietly in a blank room and writing down what he is feeling in an attempt to face the issues in his mind and find peace in the still moments of life. In taking all of these steps, we start to see a happier Ruben emerge and a more sustainable lifestyle that we know would be good for him.
And you've become very important to a lot of people around here.
But Ruben's fatal flaw rears its ugly head at the midpoint. After using the computer in Joe's office to check up on Lou, he is filled with the desire to return to his old life. We now see the extent to which the escapist life has become a new addiction for Ruben, and the potency of that addiction leads him to sell his music equipment, drums, and his RV in order to finally get the implant surgery he had wanted. In the next step of the story circle, Ruben pays a heavy price for getting what he wants, rather than what he needs. He goes to Joe, happy that he may get some sense of hearing back, but Joe sees straight through him and calls out the addict-like behaviour Ruben is displaying.
You look and sound like an addict.
He asks Ruben to leave the shelter, as it's built on a philosophy that deafness is not a handicap that must be fixed. Exiled from the lifestyle that was having such a positive effect on him, Ruben begins to realise that the implants have not fixed his hearing at all.
How about now? How's that? Oh, it's bad. Get on it.
In fact, they have turned what little hearing he had into an unbearable digital cacophony. Still filled with the foolish hope that he can get back to the life he had with Lou, he seeks her out at her father's house in Belgium. Suffering through his now painful sense of hearing, it doesn't take long for Ruben, or us, the audience, to realise that the life that they had together is long gone. Not only is Ruben changed by his lost hearing and the journey he has been on in dealing with it, but Lou has moved on and achieved some sense of fulfilment through re-establishing her relationship with her father. Finally realising that his old life is gone forever, Ruben leaves Lou the next morning and wanders into the city. He has had enough of the distortion from his implants and pulls them out. Now sitting in silence, we sense that he has finally come to terms with the loss of his old life, and perhaps even realises the fulfilment and emotional connections he gave up at Joe's shelter. In this final moment of stillness, we feel a glimmer of the inner peace that Joe was talking about, and know that Ruben will go forward into the future having been changed forever by this journey, now a more complete and emotionally fulfilled person.
Because you're right, Ruben. The world does keep moving. It can be a damn cruel place. But for me, those moments of stillness, that place, that's the kingdom of God.
Does the fact that The Sound of Metal follows such a tried and tested story structure inhibit it in some way? Certainly not. Like any good film, it uses these guidelines to provide a backbone to its story, utilising the key plot points to maintain a good pace and retain the audience's interest. These key points provide tools with which a writer can test and strain their characters, and Sound of Metal uses them with honesty and integrity to test a highly sympathetic character in a moment of great crisis.
No, I don't stay long. You always find me. You say come on the train today.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for a new video essay every 2 weeks.